Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Get Real. Happy Monday. I hope everybody has had a great weekend. I have big news. My daughter got into college last week, so that's very exciting. She's got a few more to go, but her first one's in, and it's one that she would really like to go to. So it's been a big week. And what does she want to major in? Social media marketing, but on a big scale, much bigger than me. So it's all been exciting. But today, to kick off our very busy week, I don't know about you guys, I've been up for 7 hours. There's been a lot going on today. But we're going to take a little lunchtime break here, even though it's breakfast time where my guest is. And I'm going to bring on Erica Heald, who is today's guest. Erica is a writer and marketing consultant. As the founder of Erica Heald Consulting, she helps organizations and executives define and execute content marketing and social media strategies that drive business and professional growth. She frequently speaks at marketing industry events on employee brand advocacy, content strategy, and B2B social media topics. Erica previously led and grew high-performance content marketing teams at Highwire PR, Anaplan, and Achievers. I recently got to meet Erica in person after knowing her on Twitter. So we had a lot of fun a couple weeks ago in Cleveland, getting to know each other at Content Marketing World. But many of you out there probably know her as the host of Monday's Tweet Chat Content Chat, which happens every Monday at 3 p.m. my time, 12 p.m. her time. So Erica, welcome.
Good morning, or good afternoon to you, rather.
It's good to see you.
Great to see you as well. It was so much fun getting to actually meet you in person at Content Marketing World. And, I know everyone has to weigh the pros and cons for themselves, but if you have the opportunity to go to Content Marketing World or to go to any of these kinds of events, as long as they're taking good precautions, it's well worth it, because I needed to be around, my squad in person.
Right, absolutely. It felt like a big summer camp reunion of all my Twitter friends, which was so much fun.
Exactly.
So,
Hey, Bernie. See that we've got one of our friends already joining
hi,
us.
Bernie. Good to see you. I think Bernie and I originally met on Content Chat, so thanks for that introduction.
My pleasure. I can't believe it's been 5 years of hosting Content Chat now.
I
It was one of
know.
those, happy kind of serendipitous things where, Lucy Rinder Kaplan needed to step away from the chat just at the time that I had quit my agency gig to go out on my own. And so I actually had time to take it on over, and, the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And you have a great team supporting you. So
Yep,
hi,
Alec
Alec,
is
if you're out there.
amazing.
He is amazing. So, well, that's wonderful. So let's dig in a little bit. I know I read your bio, but why don't you kind of, in your own words, tell us who you are, what you do, how you got here?
Well, it's safe to say I'm a recovering journalist, and people say recovering from what? And the answer, of course, is crushing poverty, because I did graduate with, student loans and a journalism degree, and moved to San Francisco in the middle of a very tough time to find any work in the 90s. So very quickly ended up becoming a marketing communications and internal kind of journalist, which, those are the precursors for what we now call content marketing.
Right.
We just needed Joe
Exactly.
Pulizzi to come around and say that's what it was.
That's right. It just needed a name.
Exactly. And so for years, did all that kind of stuff. I worked at Charles Schwab for 10 non-consecutive years, doing all sorts of technology-based projects, acting as like the primary marketer on the B2B side of things for technology. And so that's really where I got excited about all of that and started working with all sorts of big, juicy projects like that. So I knew that when I left there, I would want to go into working with startups that were trying to sell into the enterprise. Because if you haven't worked in a Fortune 500 company, with all of the process, with all of the politics, with all of the huge buying committees, it's kind of hard to understand what it's like. So for me, it was really fantastic to be able to take that insider knowledge and then go and apply it, working with startups. So first I did that in-house, and then, 5 years ago, went out on my own. And my clients are now primarily startups that are selling into the enterprise.
Awesome. So you've really come a long way from where you started, but yet it's all connected.
All connected.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about content marketing. I'm kind of like you. I I was kind of doing this, and I didn't even know that there was sort of this content marketing world, for lack of a better phrase. And so I started learning, what we're doing, all of this out there, blog writing and social and video, and all of this content we're pushing out is all about content marketing. So in your words, how would you describe to a business owner, what is content marketing? What do you use it for? Why do people need a content marketing plan, strategy, implementation?
Well, this is good timing because Monina just joined the chat
Hello.
there. And the way I think about it is when you're creating content for your community as a business owner, you're having those kinds of interactions like having lunch, like sitting down and having lunch and talking shop and helping somebody out. But you're doing it on a larger scale because most of us don't have time every day to speak to each and every person who might be interested in our business or what we do. But when you create really amazing content, you have the ability to have those kinds of like helpful conversations that really give people something meaningful and helpful on a larger scale. And the reason that you want to do that as a business owner, and again, I realize I work primarily with B2B technology companies, but they are still, regular businesses that are having one-on-one relationships with customers. The content really helps you show that first and foremost, you care about helping the customer, not just about their wallet. And I think especially when you're talking about B2B marketing, you get a lot of pitches that definitely feel like you are a box on an org chart and they are very interested in your money and they don't care, who you are, et cetera. I know that because I get emails that are addressed to Eric or, Jill or whatever. And so it's really clear that, a lot of people don't really care about you as a human being or an individual. And I think content marketing provides you with that opportunity to get in front of the people that you can help with your products and services, but doing it in a giving first kind of a way instead of a what's in it for you kind of a way. Everyone wants to, everyone appreciates somebody giving them something and you feel that feeling of reciprocity. Whereas when somebody immediately is trying to take your money from you, do you really want to hang out with them? Not really, right?
No, I don't. So I think that kind of ties into, every week we talk about how to keep your voice real on social, but not just on social, on all of your content. And so this whole idea of content marketing and looking at it from a big picture and your whole strategy really does help to keep your brand's voice a real person, because whether you're B2B or B2C, we're all just people to people. And I think that that's one thing that sometimes the people maybe up in the C-suite forget, that those of us down here, behind the keyboard, that's what's important, is that we're just speaking as a human to a human, no matter what it is we're trying to get across. Wouldn't you say that that's the
100%.
case? Yeah.
100%. And I talked about this a little bit in the session I did for Marketing Profs this year on doing customer stories that put the customer's voice front and center. Because I think case studies are one of those frequently missed opportunities where you can end up having somebody who's trying to inject too much of the brand into the case study. And a case study is not about your brand. A case study is about that customer and the journey they went on, the problem that they had that they were able to solve with your help. It's not about your brand message. And too often we see marketers, usually because the C-suite says, hey, there's not enough of our messaging in here. Can we get more of a product focus? It's like, well, then that's not content marketing. That's sales collateral, and it has its place. And its place is usually not your blog.
Right. I have a client right now I'm working with, and it's so refreshing. We're working on a LinkedIn newsletter, and they keep saying, we don't need any more CTAs in here. This is not a selling piece. This is a storytelling piece. And it's so refreshing. It's fantastic that we do it that way, because it really does help sell the story of the brand overall. But it's kind of at the beginning of that sales funnel.
Exactly.
It's not that final piece, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, they get it. It's nice to have clients who get it.
That's so refreshing, right?
Yeah. And, I think a lot of my clients are coming along with that, where they're realizing, okay, the social and the content piece has to kind of lead people in, but the salespeople still have to close the deal.
Exactly.
Whether you're a, mom and pop retailer or you're a big brand, salespeople still have to close the deal. That's not the job of what I'm doing on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. That's supporting it, but not closing it.
Here.
So you mentioned your session at Marketing Profs. I want to talk a little bit about your session at Content Marketing World, which was fantastic, because you talked about having a social media audit. doing a social media audit and how important that is. So I know that you have a very simple form that people use, that you use when you're taking on a client. I guess my first question is, how often do you think that people should be doing a social media audit on their brand, on their voice, on their company? And should they be looking at every piece that they're working on social every time they do an audit?
I would say, at a minimum, you want to be looking at this stuff every year because, 12 months of data is a good amount to kind of see how things have changed with your community and with the larger ecosystem you're working in. That said, anytime you do a rebranding or you have a big launch or your competitors have a really big launch, any of those things can be the right time to take another look. Those kind of interim looks, maybe you're not going to do a full-fledged spend 10 hours on it social media audit, but those are a good time to at least do a look at how that campaign or change may have been manifesting itself. And I will admit, I don't usually, from a visually scanning it standpoint, look at every piece of social that a client has shared, but from a data standpoint, I do. I pull as much data as I can get my hands on and then look at it to see, from a pure, dispassionate, numerical value, what content has done amazing and what content has just really flopped. Because sometimes you can get really attached to doing things a specific way that aren't working. But once you see, hey, you've done a variation of this kind of a post 8 times and no one likes it, don't do it anymore. Just stop, And it's helpful to have those numbers because that way it's not Erica Heald hates this post that we're doing. It's the community hates this post, right?
Right. Right.
And I think that's one of the really important things is when you have a really nice format for doing a social media audit and you make clear that this is a very neutral way of looking at things and you're basing what you're telling them you've learned based on the data and not on your feelings or what you think. You're not It's not up for argument. It's such an easier sell then for your strategy because you're not saying, here's what I think we should do based upon things that I've learned that are locked away in my head. You're saying this is based upon your data and your industry. And I think it's just really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really liked about it is, when I kind of hear the words audit or analytics, I kind of, my hands start sweating, my heart starts palpitating. But the way that you did it, you break it down really simple. Start with your numbers. How many followers do you have? How much engagement are you getting? And just make a grid, put it on a spreadsheet and literally handwrite it. You don't have to have some crazy system that, does all this aggregating and analytics. While that's great, you don't have to have that.
Don't
You
have
can start
to.
really, really simple. And that's what I really appreciate about the way that you teach that. And it's something that we're doing. The other thing we're doing, I'm going to give a shout out here to Agora Pulse, because we were having this conversation at Content Marketing World that I was having some challenges with our current system that pulls reports. You recommended Agora Pulse. I'm a brand new client of Agora Pulse.
Yay!
And I did tell them you sent me, so maybe they'll send you a thank you.
That's
so
awesome.
let's go back in history a little bit. Let's talk about Content Chat. You mentioned that you're on is it the 4th anniversary, the 5th anniversary?
Fifth, yeah. We
Anniversary.
just celebrated 5 years.
That's awesome. And so tell us, for those who haven't yet participated in Content Chat, which is every Monday, 3:00 Eastern, tell us a little bit about how you got it going. What are some great tips you have for anybody who wants to either get involved with Content Chat or maybe even start their own chat?
Sure. So let's see. I had been an actual member of the Content Chat community ever since Janice Fryatt had started it a bazillion years ago. I honestly don't even remember how long ago it was. It could have been 10 years ago. And then when she handed the reins over to Lucy, I was still, Lucy Rinder Kaplan, I was still attending when I could. So I just had been a longtime community member. I'd been a guest a few times. And when Lucy said she was going to have to sunset the chat, I just felt this huge sense of loss. And I was actually talking with Martin Lieberman about it. And he really strongly pushed me into raising my hand because I was like, oh God, this seems so overwhelming. And who am I to take this on? I don't know. Can I really be cold pitching people and asking them to be my guest? Because as somebody who is an introvert until I know you, that's scary. I don't want to cold pitch somebody and have them say no. Right? Horrible. But of course, now I have Alec do that. So I've just outsourced my thing that I have a hard time doing, which is very mature and adult of me. So for me. But it was just really, it was, fun to kind of then step in and go, all right, one of the first things I did is I did hey, everybody, what do you want to learn about? What are the challenges you're having? And now every 6 months, we do that check in and we do it, usually in the end of June and, middle of December, and just say, what is everyone struggling with? Who do you know that is amazing? And I try to kind of, both meet everybody's needs and also find folks in the community that are doing really neat stuff and then putting them in the spotlight and asking them to be my guest. So that's just been really fun and interesting. And I'd say, if you're thinking about running a Twitter chat or, doing something like what you're doing here, Shane, I'd say the most important thing is to be a guest. Like go out there and be a guest on some of these chats, see how other people are putting together their schedule, how they're, organizing, actually running the chat, and just become a really, good member of a community, because then that gives you a base of people that will be invested in what you're doing. So that way they'll care that you're trying to launch a new chat. But also do your homework and make sure that there's a need for a chat with your niche. If there's somebody else who's doing the chat that you envision doing, reach out to them and ask if they need help. Because guess what? People do need help and they will take on partners. And otherwise it's kind of rude and obnoxious if you launch a competing chat on the same day and time as an existing chat that everyone already goes to. I don't know. To me, it's kind of jerky. And I've seen that happen. And I gotta say, usually the upstart chat is not the one that survives that. And you're like, why did you do that to yourself?
Right. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, when I started, I was looking at time slots, what's not happening at these times that I'm looking at, and certainly didn't want to go on the same time as Jason Falls, who was mentoring me on how to do this. So, because I wasn't going to win that battle. So to your point, but we've gotten, we're building our audience and keeping people and hopefully sharing good information. And like you said, I try to bring on people doing interesting things who I want to put in the spotlight, like you.
Exactly.
So I want to kind of finish up with just really what it's like to, to know each other, and that I am so grateful for your friendship and for your, everything that you've taught me online. I hope that I've been able to give back to the Content Chat community. And I think that one thing that we've both learned, and all of us involved in this community online, is that just being yourself is really the best way to be. And I felt like when I met you in person at Content Marketing World, we already knew each other. I mean, I know about your baking and your cooking, and we know a lot about each other just because we've been friends on Twitter, and we're real friends. We're not out here trying to sell to each other. If something comes along that we could partner with, fantastic, but that's not really why we're in the community. That's sort of a byproduct. So it's really been great getting to know you there, and I hope it continues.
Well, right back at you. And I mean, we're both dog moms too.
Well, there's that too. Yep.
And I can't believe that my babies were so good. Who could know that I have 2 bulldogs in this room right now?
I'm very proud of them. Mine are both in their crates. It's nap time for them. So yeah.
Luckily, the bulldogs are very lazy. They're not up yet. They're like, Mama, it's too early.
Well, thank you for getting up this early then. I appreciate it. I know this is kind of like right at the beginning of your workday. So I appreciate you starting your morning with us, and I will see you on Content Chat this afternoon. So thank you, everybody. Please say thank you to Erica. Make sure that you're following her on Twitter. She definitely has so much great information that she consistently shares. So whether you are new to Twitter or you've been around for a long time like us, there's always something new to learn. So thank you. It's so good to see you in person. Absolutely. And for everyone else, I hope to see you next week. My guest will be another friend from Content Marketing World, Kathy McPhillips, who's joining me. So I hope you'll join for that. And I'll see you then. Until then, keep it real.